Okay, so I'm going to talk through a little bit of this again, like we did before, because Blade Dance is actually a little bit more complicated than it might seem at first glance. So you can use some abilities like Captive Audience with Blade Dance that will actually give a lot of bleeding, so it really benefits from Executioner. If you use Blood Oath, not only can you generate movement with Blood Rush, but enemies can't parry you or riposte you. So essentially you guarantee your hit on hard hit enemies like the Force Regime Stealer. And as you can see here, because each stack gets all these it almost crashes the game just to get through all my damage and all my stacks here. And because I'm using Drakari weapons, I get the Toxin because I'm Dogmatic 2, I get the Burning, and because, well, yeah, bleeding from Executioner. So then you can use Blood Rush with Blood Oath because you can use it infinite times turn on a new target to actually get some movement and move around the battlefield and generate some stuff. So using it here to get close to allies, I've taken the upgrade Steph Waltz to add my agility to damage. So now I've got all my agility modifiers coming in here for the base damage. So we are stacking damage like crazy. Of course, the first hit will apply the dots, the second follow-up hits will proc Force Repentance, and then it will cause those dots to explode, which is why sometimes it looks like Death from Above does more damage. It's not actually doing more damage, it's just Force Repentance is proccing on the preloaded dots. So one of the things you can do here, so that Bounty Hunter interrupted my turn, so if I use Acrobatic Artistry, I'm actually going to go back to that point, not to the initial point of where my Blade Dancer actually started the turn, because it counts as like an extra turn. So what I'm doing is I'm using Death from Above and my MP here to actually try to move around the battlefield and use tactical uses of Blood Rush and Death from Above, which you get from getting kills, and also I generated 4 more from using that Death Waltz. So you can plan out your moves here. So Pain Resonance will give an AoE to proc bleed, so that's another way to do some extra damage. Because of the Bounty Hunter, I got my Blade Dance refreshed. But now I can use Acrobatic Artistry to move back. So we've built up enough damage that on his next turn, he's going to die, so I don't even need to worry about that. I could probably still manually finish him off here. Using Blood Rush again on these last two. Bing, bang, boom. I have many, many stacks of the Blood Oath here. Obviously, we can use Reckless Abandon, which is going to do a lot of damage to myself at this point. But that will actually, by the health that I've increased by, will do extra percentage damage. You can get more by using stuff to boost the Medicaid. I've not got that on here yet because I moved that quest later. But as you can see, like, I've used Blade Dance tactically to get around here, and I've set up where it hurts to go in and then do some big damages. Okay, so let's actually get in and talk about the build, and this time I've recorded things in the right order, so I know that I was talking to you about before how to play this a little bit. So Kibellah has a number of options that you can use to put onto her because she, well, yes, she's just a very good all-rounder. Blade Dancer can have one of the highest melees of any class in the game if you build it right, because a lot of their stuff is universal, so it can apply to either her 2 weapons for her actual unique abilities, but you can also use a secondary chainsaw to get some other things out of it. What I could do if I really wanted to abuse her, I could grab the Void Veteran Boots and the Temperis Carapace Sleep Backpack from Heinrichs, as well as his chainsaw, and I could just throw that straight in Kibellah. The only thing that she'll be weaker than is because she's not a Psyker, she doesn't get to add the Toxin to the chainsaw, but we don't really need that. It's just something to be noted. Because of the 2 weapons, I like to use Swashbuckler's Cloak on her. You can also use the Blade Dancer's Mantle to increase her Death from Above by mental damage, and it will also do something with your resolve. Now, one of the really good items to use that with is the Vial of Fausto. So basically, it will give you 2 resolve for each rank in Dogmatic. If you actually, so you only need to be Votary. So depending on the storyline, if you actually push her into full Dogmatic, this is my Heretic run, so I haven't done it, but she can be rank 3 or I think is it 4 Dogmatic? By the way, you can do that on her, and when you do that, you can actually up her resolve a lot, so it's worth having the cloak on her. Because I haven't done that, I don't have the cloak on her. So, yes, I'm not using the Vial of Fausto. But one thing that's really good, Voidborn's Pride, because obviously you turn resolve to Medicaid, more health, more armor, more damage. And as you can see, it already starts pretty high. You can use Medicaid gear on her, or you can even use stuff like Lingering Whisper from her storyline, and that does more damage based on perception. So with buffs, you'll actually see something out of that. If you're going for the resolve stacking build, then Face of the Sovereign is also quite useful. There's also a talent that you can use that increases resolve and kill. I'm not using that because obviously it's not something you really need to build into. You can also use Visor of Invisibility, but yes, whenever you do damage over time, you can do some direct damage. Now, obviously, you're not an assassin, so you're not going to benefit from that as much as you could. But any items that increase her Medicaid isn't going to increase her health, it's going to increase her armor, it's going to increase her crit damage. Same thing if you get weapon score up. You can also use Beat of Might. That's something to switch out for the Knuckle Guard. Knuckle Guard you get by going incognito into Footfall, so you can actually miss that item. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can put on her, a lot of gloves. So you can use like stuff like exoskeletal gloves, or if I check my Trader, you can also use the augmented gloves because that extra weapon skill and strength will actually turn into damage for her. Boots, you can use either the Enforcer's Light boots, you can use the fencing boots, you can use the skirmisher boots, and you can actually get 2 sets of skirmisher boots in 1.3, which is quite nice depending on dialogue actions in Act 1. And like I said, there's some other things you can use. There is another pair of boots that you can actually turn into almost unlimited MP, which is it's one of the ones that are unique to Blood Rush. Where is Swift Shadows? There it is. So once per turn, when the wearer uses Blood Oath or Vengeance, they gain +1 use dash con 0 AP until the end of the turn. Bounty Hunters can interrupt, can reset, so you can use that for every time Bounty Hunter has prey, so you can loop that quite nicely. At the moment, the next I've got on her is just the Anatomist one. Like I said, there are other options and other things you can do. You can also use like Requiemator, so when you've got buffs on that willpower, it'll do some extra stuff. But you can even use like even the Phoenix Gem to get up that Medicaid, so you can throw that on there and you can see some direct increases straight away. So yeah, just click off blah blah blah. So yeah, so her armor gets a little bit of buff, her Medicaid goes up, so there are many options to it. Like I said, I like the Crimson Oblivion, so I like to build into the Death Cult stuff and use her Blood Vial. At the moment, I've got the Sharpened Venom Blade in both slots, because you get a lot of these. Like, so I think I've got like 22 just picked up, because like once I stop collecting resources, once I've maxed out all the vendors, I just leave everything in here. So yeah, some people were like, oh my god, but I was like, there's no reason for me to sell it, and I need all those items to show off builds anyway. But yeah, you do want to build her into light armor. If you go into Assassin, you're going to want to use the High Spinner's armor. If you're going into Executioner, you can use Bygone Sorrow, or you can use it as well. It's up to you, but basically just keep her in light armor. She'll get the most out of it. And like I said, she's not exactly squishy. But if we swap over to the spreadsheet, we can actually have a little look at the build. So I did try to differentiate this from my Pyromancer build. So your Pyromancer version, you can go Death World, which means you can build heavily in turning injuries and traumas into extra damage. So you take Dance on the Edge, Facing the End, Wounded Beast. You can take Shadow Dance and stuff like that. But because Kibellah is Voidborn, you can't build into any of that. So I think for her, it's better to get Dueling Mastery, Blood Oath, Blood Rush, Bloody Mess, because that 10% damage proc, which we can increase later, it can be useful, because I also throw on the Book of War prayers early on. Dance Partners, Death Warden, very important, these two. Gets that Medicaid up, allows you to start doing it for critical damage. Dual weapon combat, so we can start upping attack economy. You can take Acrobatic Artistry or Captive Audience. If you want to be damage focused, Captive Audience, that's what I take early on. But if you're a little bit worried about your positioning whilst you're learning, then you want Acrobatic Artistry. I've put these here because if you are going to take them, it's there, but I don't really recommend them. Though Bouncing on the Edge can be very useful if you're not very confident with your play. Then we go into Executioner. Pain Resonance, AoE Bleed, Taunt proc. Anatomy Expert turns Medicaid into our HP. Invigorating Screams does half your tough bonus to heal you every time you proc something. Yes, we don't invest in toughness, but you still have Iron Arm, Reveal the Light, and Infusing, so you will still get that. Rex Abandon will turn 30% of your HP into percentage damage, so later game when you can build up to 1000 HP using Voidborn's Pride, that's a 300% damage boost, so pretty good. Does It Hurt allows you to crit with dots, so we've got more Medicaid, more Jinx, so we can use more Bloody Mess, and then we take stuff to lower enemy armor with dots, and then it also increases it with here, we get more bleed here. Exsanguination can give you more MP, but doesn't give it to you on that turn. So if you use it in, say, a bonus turn and then finds out, you'll have more MP. Drukhari weapon efficiency, you need Lord Xenos, so, and I think it's level 26 as well you need for this. I can't remember the exact level, but because I want to get the Medicaid first, this is why I take it level 29, 30, and you'll start seeing more common Drukhari weapons. You'll probably only have one sword to this point, so taking it here seems to make sense to me. And then start going to Dance Blood. If you don't want to go into any of her like Crimson Blood Assassin nonsense, then don't take these. Just swap them out to whatever you want. Maybe agility increases, perception bonus increases, weapon score, blah blah blah. Duelist I like to get because it's 15% damage boost to depending on what your agility score is and how much you've buffed up, it's a percentage damage boost to your damage against enemies with melee, so that's pretty good. Master Torture will give a 15% damage boost for your 3 different dots. Yeah, Acrobatic Artistry or Captive Audience, you can then pick the missing one here. All-encompassing accuracy is pretty useful. Rising Tempo will give you up to 15% extra damage after 3 hits. Terrifying Strikes, you can hit someone with Unbearable Presence and you can force them to move. So if you think they're going to survive a hit but you want to be able to move closer to other enemies, if you position yourself right, you can force them to run a certain direction and then follow up with them with this. That is actually pretty useful. I don't take the one where you just passively can move on blood trails because things don't survive. You can then take Critical Velocity or Degraded Defense. It's up to you. Do you want to do a little bit more crit damage and crit chance based on your dodge, or do you want follow-up hits to do more damage? Depending on the enemy, if they're going to be squishy, this might just one-shot them. If they're not squishy for like bosses, you'll probably want this one. Blade's Hand does percentage damage increase. It's low priority. Spinning Blades, again, low priority. Perfect Anatomy or Revelant Suffering, up to you. This will increase your armor, so I do like that. We then get Escape Artist, so dodges will increase your death from above. You could even take this earlier, like stuff like Spinning Blades and Escape Artist, you could take in this area, but I kind of don't want to lose any of these other abilities. Say if Death Warden was actually up here in 7 Footsteps of Death, you could probably take it, both of them, at level 11 and level 14. You could make quite a good dodge parry counter build, but the way it is, I prefer this, but it's up to you if you want to change that. Wound Stream Blood is just to finish off our Blood Assassin stuff. You can switch that out if you don't want that. Race Against Death and Nimble, yeah, because it's more dodge, big boost there. We then take Gift of Torment or Exsanguination, whichever one you don't have. It depends on you how you like to play. Then you take Cataclysm, which can actually proc from everything based on when you use Carnival of Misery, or you can take Degraded Defense if you're not using Carnival and you're focusing more on using Death Waltz. Then you can either take It Takes Two or Promises of Blood, or a third thing. If you want something else, go for that. But this, for me, is the best way that I found to play Kibellah, and she can just absolutely annihilate and clear the entire battlefield. Yes, she's not going to do the same damage as a Psyker Executioner with a Chainsaw, but it's the next best thing. Honestly, I think probably the highest DPS in the game would be a Blade Dancer with stuff like Duelist, Master of Torture, and that sort of stuff from Executioner. With a chainsaw using the Void Veteran boots into Executioner. Yeah, you won't have the normal boost that you will do, but you will have really high melee damage. So yeah, you can take 2 swords and a chainsaw like I did. But yeah, so all the gear options I've also put on the sheet, so feel free to click the link in the description to have a look at some of the options. If you want to use something else, you can. I've noticed the Mastercraft Hikari Blade, they made most of the Hikari Blades daggers, but this one's still a sword. They missed one. Virulent Slicer does actually drop in the game. They're both where you go get Mara's High in Act 5, so you do have access to both of those. But yeah, if you use Chainsaw, use the Elite Carapace backpack. I've also got an Assassin Death Aura build, so if you want to go with that, it's focusing on just proccing all the willpower checks to create instant damages. She can actually do more of it than Mara's High can. And I didn't bother with Arc Militant or Master Tactician because those builds just, they don't compare to these two. But yeah, that'll do it. That'll be Kibellah. I'll show a little thing of like her clearing the Eurolon encounter, but yeah, no, very, very strong companion. Arguably second strongest companion. Maybe she's competing with Argenta. It's up to those two. But yeah, that's it. Kibellah, hope you have a good one.
I shall prevail. I am your blade and shield. As honor ordains. As the tenets demand. As honor ordains. The shackles brings me no pleasure. Let the blood of the wicked be shed as thou hast shadows will